What if the quiet between you isn't the end of the conversation, but the most important part you've been missing? Have you ever felt that sudden stillness when messages stop and calls go unanswered? That void can scream louder than any argument, but today I want to shift your entire perspective on that silence. What if I told you that when a man and a woman stop contacting each other, the dialogue doesn't end? It transforms into a language of pure energy and unmet needs. Let's begin with a truth that's often overlooked. Space is not your adversary. It's your most insightful mentor. When communication ceases, a vacuum forms. And what rushes into that emptiness isn't just fear or loneliness. It's a mirror held up to your deepest self. Most people frantically try to fill the quiet because being alone with their own thoughts feels terrifying. Yet sometimes the most compassionate act for both of you is to step back. This silence forces every hidden emotional trigger to the surface. It creates a rare, raw space where you must ask, why does this absence wound me so deeply? The unsettling answer might be that the pain isn't emanating from them. It's an old echo from within you, finally audible in the quiet. True affection isn't born from a place of emotional lack. Love is not, I need you to feel whole. Its essence is, I am already whole, and I choose to share that wholeness with you. The quiet between you reveals the foundation of your bond. Were you there out of genuine connection, or was it a sanctuary from your own insecurities, a source of validation or distraction? Furthermore, men and women often navigate this silence with different maps. A man might withdraw into his internal landscape to process feelings alone. A woman might seek dialogue and verbal connection to find resolution. Neither path is incorrect, but when they clash without understanding, the gap widens into a canyon. Awareness of this difference is the first step to bridging it. Silence is not a period, it's a comma in the story of us. In that pause, you hold a choice. You can use it to reflect, heal, and rebuild, or you can let it fill with bitterness. Your decision will determine if this quiet becomes a bridge or a permanent wall. Most relationships let silence solidify into permanence because people act from raw emotional reaction, not conscious choice. Is pride stopping you from reaching out? Is fear silencing your truth? This distance doesn't have to mean finality. It can be the birthplace of crystal clear clarity, but only if you meet it with deliberate intention. Let me be clear. Silence is not the enemy. It is an invitation to heal old wounds, to grow beyond your current self, and to fundamentally redefine what love and connection mean to you. Do not fear the quiet. Lean into it. Own your emotions. Own your evolution. And when the moment is right, if the bond is true, you'll know precisely what to do. Because authentic love isn't intimidated by silence. Authentic love learns its deepest lessons there. Now consider this. One of the most powerful yet ignored truths is that space is your teacher. Most are terrified of it because it feels like abandonment, like emptiness. But in reality, it's a summons to pause, to breathe, and crucially, to understand. When contact stops, the immediate assumption is that something is shattered beyond repair. Yet sometimes, that very space is the essential ingredient needed for clarity, healing, and a far deeper bond. We humans have a primal wiring for connection. When it's severed, our survival brain panics. The questions flood in. Why aren't they calling? What did I do? Are they with someone else? Our mind becomes a battlefield of assumption and insecurity. But here's the pivotal shift. This space isn't about them. It's about you. It's your chance to confront your own inner world. Relationships have a way of blurring our vision. Constant contact keeps our focus outward on their moods, their reactions, their presence. But when the notifications stop, the noise fades. In that new stillness, you're left with the one person you may have been avoiding. Yourself. I know this sounds uncomfortable. Most despise being alone with their thoughts because silence exposes the cracks, the insecurities, the fears, the old hurts. But listen, those cracks aren't there to shame you. They are there to show you exactly where the light needs to get in. This space becomes the blank canvas for the big questions. Who am I, independently of this person? What do I truly desire from this connection? Am I seeking a partner or a salve for my self-doubt? Here's the life-altering part. The answers can change everything. You might see the relationship was built on unstable ground, or you might realize the genuine connection was being sabotaged by poor communication or unhealed baggage. Either way, space grants the priceless gift of perspective. People often mistake distance for indifference. If they truly cared, they'd reach out, they'd fight for me. But love isn't exclusively about constant closeness. Sometimes love is about trust. Trusting that space can serve a higher purpose. Trusting that quiet doesn't automatically signal the end. I've watched countless people rush to fill the void with long messages, repeated calls, pleas for closure, but what they're truly attempting is an escape from the discomfort within themselves. See, when two people are apart, two parallel journeys unfold. One processes in solitude, the other may desperately try to build a bridge. Here's the secret. You cannot force someone to close the distance. You cannot hasten clarity. Your sole responsibility in that space is your own focus. Are you becoming the best version of yourself? Are you growing, healing, and reflecting? Because if the silence ends and you reconnect without the inner work, you'll simply recreate the same painful patterns. This distance isn't about punishment, games, or teaching a lesson. It's about honoring a process. Sometimes two individuals need time apart to heal separately before they can heal together. Sometimes the space reveals the connection isn't meant to be revived, but either way, it serves a vital purpose. So remember this. Don't fear the space. Don't rush to fill it with noise or temporary fixes. Embrace it. Utilize it. Because space isn't emptiness. It is an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to gain a clarity that only profound quiet can offer. When you honor that space, whether the relationship returns or not, you win. You've grown. You've healed. You've shown yourself the ultimate respect. True love doesn't suffocate. It creates room to breathe. And often the most powerful bonds are those that survive the silence, not those that constantly avoid it. When communication breaks, something fascinating occurs. Silence acts like a magnifying glass, intensifying every emotional trigger, every old wound, every hidden fear. Emotions are powerful drivers. They shape our actions and reveal the hidden stories we tell ourselves about love and self-worth. When contact halts, these emotions don't vanish. They amplify. Let me tell you, silence is not passive. It is intensely active. It's an emotional amplifier turned to maximum volume. Everything buried within starts rising. Maybe it's the fear of being left, the sting of rejection, or the ghost of an old heartbreak. And in that quiet, your mind races. Why aren't they reaching out? Am I not enough? The silence isn't just about their absence. It's about what that absence awakens inside you. Most believe the pain they feel is caused by the other person, but the raw truth is much of that pain was already there, sleeping within. The other person merely pulled the trigger. Their silence didn't create your insecurities. It revealed them, and this is where the gold lies. This quiet creates an opportunity, uncomfortable but rare, to face those wounds directly. The challenge? Most don't want to. It's easier to blame. If they would just call, I wouldn't feel this way. But is that true? Or would their call just temporarily soothe a wound that's been festering for years? Emotional triggers are alarms in your psyche. They scream, hey, something here needs attention. Something needs healing. When two people stop talking, it's like those alarms are turned up full blast. That's where the real work begins, because now you're not just dealing with their silence, you're dealing with yourself. Most run from this stage. They distract with other people, social media, work, anything to avoid sitting in that quiet and asking the hard questions. Why do I feel unworthy of love? Why do I need constant reassurance? Why does their silence make me feel invisible? These aren't easy, but they are necessary. If you don't address these triggers, they will follow you into every future relationship. Another thing happens in the silence: reflection. You replay conversations, analyze words, second-guess actions. This can be helpful if done with intention, but without care, it becomes obsession, a loop of self-blame and regret. Remember, growth doesn't come from obsessing over what you could have done differently. It comes from understanding what you can learn. Healing isn't about changing the other person's actions. It's about changing your own responses. Because when someone's silence triggers deep pain, it's not always about them. Sometimes it's about that childhood memory of being overlooked, that past relationship where you felt discardable, that long-held belief that you're unworthy of steady love. The silence you fear is the classroom where you learn to hear your own voice. This is where transformation happens. When you stop running from the discomfort, when you stop numbing the pain and truly sit with it, you begin to heal. And when you heal, silence no longer feels like abandonment. It feels like space to breathe, to grow, to let go. This process isn't easy. It's one of the hardest things you'll do, but it's also one of the most rewarding. When you heal those triggers, something incredible happens. You no longer need someone else's presence to feel whole. You stop letting silence control your peace. You start showing up in relationships relationships not as someone desperate for validation, but as someone who is complete, secure, and emotionally resilient. So next time silence enters your relationship, don't run. Lean in. Listen to its lesson. Sometimes silence isn't there to punish you. It's there to heal you. If you can sit with that discomfort long enough, you'll emerge stronger, wiser, and more connected to yourself than ever. And that is a victory no silence can ever take from you. One of the deepest revelations silence brings is the question of why we seek connection. When communication stops and the other person isn't there to provide presence or attention, something within us stirs. We're forced to confront a mirror that reflects whether our love was built on genuine connection or on emotional dependency. Self-worth and dependency are often tangled so tightly it's hard to see where one ends. Here's the truth. If your sense of value is anchored to someone else's attention, silence will feel like an attack. Proof you are not enough, unworthy, a failure. But your worth is not determined by someone else's ability to show up. It's not in their texts or calls. Your worth is inherent. It's something you carry within. Yet many enter relationships with unhealed wounds, hoping the other person will fill the gaps from absent parents, past betrayal, years of feeling unseen. So when someone pulls away, it's not just their absence that hurts. It's the reopening of every old wound. It feels like confirmation. I'm not lovable. I'm not enough. But this silence, this emotional void, is a powerful opportunity. It's a chance to ask the deep, uncomfortable questions. Am I here because I genuinely love this person or because I'm afraid of being alone? Am I seeking a connection or seeking someone to complete me? There's a massive difference between needing someone and choosing someone. When you need someone to feel whole, you place the burden of your happiness on their shoulders. You make them responsible for soothing your fears and filling your gaps. That's not love. That's dependency. And dependency breeds resentment because no one can carry that weight. But when you choose someone from a place of wholeness, everything shifts. You don't cling to their attention as proof of your value. You don't crumble in their silence because your self-worth isn't up for negotiation. It's anchored within. This doesn't mean you shouldn't care if someone you love stops talking. Human connection and reassurance matter, and the hurt is real. The difference lies in how you process it. Are you spiraling into self-doubt, or are you recognizing the hurt, sitting with it, and reminding yourself of your inherent value? Silence often reveals if we've been using a relationship as a crutch to avoid our own healing. It's hard to admit we've been looking to someone else to do the inner work only we can do, but once you recognize it, you have the power to change. You shift from needing someone to choosing them. Dependency says, I can't live without you. Love says, I can live without you, but I'd rather not because I value what we share. That's the shift. And silence, painful as it is, can be the catalyst. This pause is a moment to reclaim your sense of self, to ask, who am I outside this relationship? What do I bring? What love do I want to give and receive? When you answer these, something incredible happens. You stop fearing silence. You stop fearing the absence of someone else's validation because you validated yourself. The most powerful relationships aren't built on dependency. They're built on two whole people coming together, not to complete, but to complement each other, built on mutual respect, growth, and choice. If you're in the silence now, feeling that gnawing unworthiness, pause, breathe. Remind yourself, you are worthy, you are enough. Your value does not depend on someone else's presence or absence. Do the work, lean into the discomfort, and when the time comes, whether you reconnect or not, you'll walk away stronger, wiser, and with a deeper sense of self-worth. True love doesn't come from dependency, it comes from freedom, and freedom starts with you. A great misunderstanding comes from how men and women process emotions during conflict or silence. Communication isn't just words, it's delivery, timing, and intention. When talk breaks down entirely, it's often not from a lack of care, but because they're speaking different emotional languages. A man facing tension often withdraws. He goes quiet, not necessarily from indifference, but to process internally. For many men, silence is a regrouping strategy, an attempt to control overwhelming feelings. But from a woman's perspective, that silence can feel like rejection, like abandonment. She thinks, why is he shutting me out? What she may not see is that his silence might be his way of protecting the relationship, ensuring he doesn't speak hurtfully in the moment. Conversely, women often use conversation as a tool for connection, healing, and resolution. When feeling tension, she wants to talk it out, express emotions, find shared understanding. When met with silence, it feels personal, like her emotions are being dismissed. So she pushes harder. More texts, more attempts. And the man, already overwhelmed, withdraws further. See the cycle? He withdraws for space to process. She pushes for connection and reassurance. The more she pushes, the more he retreats. The more he retreats, the more abandoned she feels. It's not malice or lack lack of love. It's a clash of communication styles. Most aren't aware of this difference. They don't see the behavior as a coping mechanism, but as a personal slight. The man thinks, why can't she give me space? The woman thinks, why can't he just talk to me? Both end up feeling misunderstood and hurt. Silence doesn't always mean, I don't care. Sometimes it means, I don't know how to say what I'm feeling. Sometimes it means, I'm afraid of making it worse. Sometimes it means I need time to understand myself before I can explain myself to you. In a world of instant responses, silence feels intolerable. The key is understanding the different approaches, understanding that silence isn't always rejection, understanding that communication is about timing and intention. A man might need quiet to find his emotional footing. A woman might need conversation to feel secure. Neither is wrong. They're different. The real challenge is who breaks the cycle? Who steps up to say, I see we approach this differently, but I'm willing to meet you halfway. Relationships don't thrive when two people demand to be understood. They thrive when two people commit to understanding each other. If you're a man who tends to withdraw, ask yourself, am I communicating why I need space? Am I reassuring her that my silence isn't about a lack of love, but a need for clarity? If you're a woman who tends to reach out, ask, am I giving him the space he needs without interpreting it as rejection? Am I trusting that his silence might be his way of finding the right words? Silence isn't the enemy. It's a tool. It can build bridges or create walls depending on its use. Intentional silence for reflection, processing, and resetting can be a doorway to deeper understanding. Silence used as a weapon to punish or manipulate becomes toxic. Communication isn't about perfection. It's about awareness, recognizing your patterns, owning them, and meeting your partner where they are. When two people commit to understanding each other's styles, silence no longer feels like rejection. It feels like a pause. And in that pause, there's room for healing, growth, and reconnection. Don't assume silence always means disinterest. Don't assume words are always the answer. Learn the difference between healthy space and emotional avoidance. Approach silence with curiosity, not fear. Sometimes the deepest understanding happens not in the noise of words, but in the quiet spaces between them. When communication breaks and quiet takes over, one of the most transformative lessons is learning to sit with ourselves, to confront the thoughts, emotions, and fears that arise when the noise fades. Silence is an invitation to step inward, to reflect, to gain clarity about who you are and what you want. That kind of self-awareness is rare and powerful. When two people stop talking, most externalize their focus. They overanalyze what the other is thinking, replay past talks, craft hypotheticals, but none of that brings growth. It traps you in external dependency where your peace is tethered to someone else's response. Silence, embraced intentionally, offers something far more valuable, the chance to face yourself. Facing yourself isn't easy, glamorous, or guaranteed, but it's necessary. In those quiet moments with no distraction or validation, you start to see patterns. You see the fears you've avoided, the insecurities you've hidden, the wounds you've carried. This is where emotional resilience is born. Resilience isn't pretending you don't feel pain. It's learning to sit with that pain without letting it control you. It's asking the tough questions. Why does this silence bother me so much? Why does their absence make me feel unworthy? Am I seeking their validation because I don't know how to validate myself? These hard questions are the doorway to true self-awareness. Most never get here because it's uncomfortable. Silence feels heavy. So they rush to fill the void, texting, distracting, jumping into something new. But every time you avoid sitting with yourself, you miss a chance to grow. You miss becoming someone who isn't shaken by another's silence because your sense of self is rooted within. Leaning into silence forces you to clarify your own needs, boundaries, and expectations. Are you holding on because this aligns with your values or from fear of being alone? Are you seeking connection or trying to fill an inner void? These are the questions silence surfaces, and the answers can change your life. Another crucial realization: your happiness, peace, and emotional stability are your responsibility. Not your partner's, not anyone else's. You cannot outsource your well-being. When you sit in the stillness and reclaim that responsibility, you become powerful. Now you're not reacting to their behavior. You're responding from clarity, calm, and self-respect. Silence doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you're giving yourself space to breathe, reflect, and choose your next step intentionally, not react out of fear or desperation. Embracing silence teaches patience, self-control, and the value of thoughtful reflection over impulsive reaction. Most importantly, it teaches that your emotional state is something you can regulate and own, regardless of others. This emotional maturity transforms your relationships. When you return to communication, you come not from fear, but from wholeness. You can speak clearly about your needs, feelings, and boundaries without projecting insecurities. When two emotionally resilient people communicate after a period of quiet, the conversation is different. It's not about blame or who's right. It's about understanding, connection, and moving forward with intention. So next time you're in the discomfort of silence, resist the urge to run or fill it with noise. Lean in, sit with it, ask the hard questions, listen to what it's trying to teach you. When you can find peace within yourself despite the lack of external validation, you become unshakable. You become someone not defined by another's presence or absence. And that is the foundation of true emotional freedom. When two people stop communicating, the silence isn't empty, it's an amplifier. It magnifies the emotions, thoughts, and energy buried beneath the surface. While most focus on the absence of words, they overlook the presence of energy, the unspoken language that flows between people even without speech. Energy doesn't lie. Words can be manipulated, actions misinterpreted, but the energy two people share, whether loving, tense, resentful, or indifferent, speaks louder than anything. Every relationship has an emotional frequency. When aligned, energies flow in harmony. Communication feels natural. Understanding feels effortless. When that frequency is disrupted by misunderstanding, hurt, or resentment, words may stop, but energy keeps talking. You can feel when someone is emotionally checked out, even if they're present. You can feel when someone is holding back, even if they say the right things. This is why silence is powerful. It strips away the illusion of words and leaves the raw truth of the energy. That's why being in a room with someone you're at odds with feels heavy without a word spoken. That's why an unanswered text echoes louder than 1,000 sentences. In silence, the energy becomes undeniable. For many, this truth is uncomfortable. It's easier to get lost in surface talk, blame, or distractions than to confront the raw energy silence reveals. But silence also creates space to reset the emotional frequency, to recalibrate the energy between two people. Sometimes distance isn't about punishment, it's about perspective, giving both room to step back, breathe, and reassess not just words, but intention. Because intention is everything. You can say all the right things, but if your energy is off, if your intention isn't pure, it will be felt. This is where alignment comes in. If two people reconnect after silence, but their energies are still misaligned, the same patterns will repeat. The same arguments will surface. The same wounds reopen. But if both use that silence to reset their own energy, clarify intention, and release baggage, reconnection becomes transformative. Recognize that energy isn't always mutual. One may be ready to heal and reconnect. The other may be stuck in resentment or avoidance. The hard truth, you cannot control someone else's energy. You cannot force them to meet you emotionally. What you can control is your own energy, alignment, and clarity. This is why self-awareness is critical. Ask, what energy am I bringing? Am I coming from love and understanding or fear and insecurity? Am I holding resentment or allowing myself to let go? These questions are essential because the energy you bring sets the tone for every interaction and every future silence. Sometimes silence is the universe giving you space to shift your energy. It's a pause button, a stillness allowing you to ask, what do I really want? Resolution or to be right? Connection or control? These require digging deep, confronting your shadows, taking responsibility for your energy. When you align your energy, when you approach from clarity, love, and maturity, people feel it. Even in silence, even at a distance. Energy transcends words. But aligning your energy doesn't guarantee the other person will. That's where acceptance enters. Sometimes the lesson isn't fixing the relationship, but recognizing when energies no longer align and having the courage to let go with grace. Silence isn't just about communication between two people, it's about communication with yourself. Am I honoring my energy? Am I true to my values? Am I showing up as my best self regardless of how they show up? From this perspective, silence stops feeling like punishment. It feels like an opportunity to reset, realign, and either reconnect with authenticity or move forward with peace. Relationships are an exchange of energy. Silence is the space where that energy becomes visible, undeniable, and if embraced, deeply transformative. Don't fear silence. Don't rush to fill it with empty words. Lean in. Listen. Let it guide you, not just back to them, but back to yourself. At the heart of every meaningful bond lies one truth. Communication is more than words. It's understanding, intention, and emotional alignment. When a man and woman stop contacting each other, the following silence isn't emptiness. It's a mirror reflecting the relationship's true state, the unspoken fears, unresolved wounds, and most importantly, the space for mutual and individual growth. This quiet, met with awareness, isn't something to fear. It's a profound teacher. It reveals how men and women process emotions differently, exposes communication breakdowns, and invites both to step back, reflect, and reset. Silence gives us the chance to confront ourselves, to sit with our fears, insecurities, and patterns. In doing so, it offers the path to emotional resilience, clarity, and deeper self-knowledge. But the key is this: silence isn't inherently good or bad. Its value is determined by how you use it. It can be a tool for healing, reflection, and reconnection, or a weapon of avoidance and control. The difference is intention. Are you using it to gain clarity and return with deeper understanding, or to build walls? Simultaneously, energy never lies. Even in silence, the energy between two people speaks volumes. It carries the weight of unspoken words and lingering feelings. Unless both are willing to realign their energy with intention and vulnerability, words will only be surface fixes for deeper misalignment. In the end, whether silence leads to reconnection or closure, it serves a purpose. It can heal, clarify, and empower, but only if both individuals are willing to lean into the discomfort, ask the hard questions, and own their part in the dynamic. So let me leave you with this: silence is not the enemy. It's an opportunity to listen deeply, to understand profoundly, and to grow expansively. Whether that growth happens together or apart, the choice is yours. But one thing is certain: how you navigate silence will define not only your relationships, but your relationship with yourself. So don't fear it. Embrace it. Let it guide you toward clarity, authentic connection, and true emotional freedom. If this perspective shifted something for you, help us share this message. Please like this video and subscribe to Winds of Thought for more insights into the human heart and mind.